produce those results. So a few systems that are really important for anybody like you and I to have is systems for how we plan our week, right? We need to be able to plan our week and look ahead to the 7 days and be able to map it out and make sure that our goals that we're setting for the week are based on our larger objectives, right? A lot of people think that they're planning their week because they're sitting down with their calendar and they're scheduling things. No, scheduling is the last thing I do when I plan my week. I'm talking about identifying.
Welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast, where we bring to you the most successful, happy, fulfilled gentlemen from around the world who have been able to conquer themselves, their life, their marriage, and their businesses. You will be learning from four-dimensional gentlemen who have cracked the code to the science of having it all. The question is, how can married entrepreneurs with kids become gentlemen, achieve true freedom, and build a successful, happy, and fulfilled life, marriage, and business? This show will give you the answer for that. My name is Alex Ramirez, and I'm your host, and you're welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, Fulfillment Talk podcast. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. As always, I have an incredible guest, and I know I always say that, but it's because it's always true. And I'm very excited to get to talk to this gentleman, get to learn from him and get to connect with him. But before I introduce this gentleman to you, though, I just want to give a big shout out to all of you who have been leaving comments, reviews, and likes on all the major podcasting platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, and to those who have been watching on YouTube as well. Thank you very much. You are the reason why we do what we do. And today I want to ask you for a favor. I want to ask you that if you get something out of this interview, some type of value, some type of insight, a skill, a mindset shift, information, or the inspiration to go out and take action and make some progress towards your goals, I want to ask you to please share this episode with 10 people. Share it on social media. Share the link on Facebook, on Instagram, on your story. Send it to a friend. Share it with 10 people. Since this is how we grow, this is how we're able to share our message, to motivate, inspire, and bless other men to change their lives. And today I have, he's a former NFL running back and now a mindset coach. Olaniyi Sobomehin helps pro athletes build supreme confidence and dominate under pressure. Mindset coach, very excited to talk about mindset. That is one of my favorite topics to talk about. So Olaniyi, thank you very much for being here, man. I really appreciate you. And you are welcome.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you inviting me on. I'm excited.
Awesome, bro. So, man, the first thing that I do with my guests is I tell them to walk us through their entrepreneurial journey in 75 seconds or less.
Ooh, that's a tough one. All right. Well, it began post NFL career, and I wanted to stay connected to the game and started coaching at a local high school. That led to me taking some of the young players who were freshmen, sophomores, taking them up under my wing and starting to train them in the gym as I was trying to get back into the NFL. That turned into me creating my first business called Pro Squad Athletics, where I was teaching these athletes over 6 weeks during the summer how to prepare physically, mentally to be great football players. That led to me training more athletes and me realizing in training these athletes, what they need is beyond physical training. They need to know how to build a more dominant mindset. And that is what led me to create I'm Not You, which I've been running for 10 years now. I've coached over close to 400 high performers, including athletes, entrepreneurs all over the globe, teaching them how to build that killer instinct, teaching them how to practically develop a dominant mindset. Of course, there's been a lot of other business ventures, starting back to when I was 10 years old, selling popsicles and Kool-Aid on the corner. But that's the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey post NFL that led me to what I do now.
Nice. Or how many hundred, high-level individuals?
Close to 400. Yeah. All over
Awesome.
The world too. Athletes, entrepreneurs, etc.
Awesome. You've been teaching them the killer mindset. I'm excited to talk about this, man.
Definitely. Man.
So let's see. Okay. So let's talk about that killer mindset, man. I mean, yeah. So physically, mentally, right? But there's more than that, right? There's a mindset that you gotta have in order to be this high performer who makes it in the NFL, this high performer who's able to show up, as the best version of themselves with his business, with his family, with, in every aspect of his life. There's this mindset that you got to have. So Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So the mindset, man, is one of those things. It's one of those words that's used a lot and it's rarely defined. So for people listening, I want you to know what I mean when I say mindset. So when I talk about mindset, I talk about the collection of thoughts and ideas and really your philosophy, what you believe that leads to what you do. And all of us as human beings, because we're animals by nature as well, most of what we're doing is happening from an unconscious standpoint. You know as well as I do. I heard a ton about your story. We're molded, but from the time that we're young, and much of what we become happens when we're young, with things that we learn, and then we experience, we manifest these beliefs in our lives, and a lot of it is conflicting. A lot of it leads to a lot of pain for us. So it's important that we understand first, mindset is about your philosophy, but understanding that most of us, if we don't put conscious effort, have a very disorganized and disheveled philosophy. We have ideas in our mind that don't make sense. We want to be happy with women, but we also didn't see happiness growing up. So we execute it wrong. We want to be wealthy, but we never saw wealth coming up, or we had conflicting ideas about what wealth would mean for us. So our mindset is disorganized. Our philosophies are disorganized. So taking control of your mindset can be a difficult process. That's why most of us, with the people around us, most of us have people around us who want good things, but they never really create what it is that they want. So understanding that it's not as simple as just reading a book. It's not as simple as telling yourself something positive. It's really going to take a lot of work, much like someone who wants to transform their body. They go to the gym. They don't assume they're just going to go to the gym for 30 minutes a day, throw around a few weights, and walk out looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. So people like you and I, we want to be mentally Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? So that means we have to have a plan that matches that. So mindset, developing that killer instinct mindset, is about first tapping into what your desires are, right? Like that's the easiest place to start, because everyone knows what they want. And what you'll find is that it becomes, once you start digging into your desires, you actually start to see a lot of the conflict once you just begin to do that, because you want things that are in conflict with one another. We want to be the best father in the world, but we also want to be the best entrepreneur in the world. That's not to say you can't make that happen, but there's a certain reality that's going to have to take place in order for you to become that. There's a certain path that you're going to have to walk in order to create that. So understanding what your desires are, then tapping into that dark side. That means understanding the more hidden elements of your desires that we don't like to make public to people, right? We all have things that drive us that aren't as sexy and aren't as attractive to talk about out loud. But understanding what those are helps you understand yourself, so that you become more integrated. So now you can be more aligned, and then you can, of course, make plans, understanding how to strategize. And then, of course, there's a lot of other tactical things you can do in order to build that mindset. But ultimately, it's going to come down to your desire. It's going to come down to having a great strategy for altering that mindset. And, of course, some time to take place. And all of us, it's within all of our realm to be able to transform ourselves. And once we do that, we start to see results. For example, me as a football player, I was never the biggest, fastest, strongest. But one thing I did have was a strong desire. I always knew what I wanted. That was something that was true for me since young. And because I followed that desire, and of course I got better as I improved. And of course, there's a certain degree of, you can call it luck, you can call it grace, you can call it timing. Then of course it's just about evolution. So
cool. There's a lot that we can, like dive deep into, man, from here.
right.
But let's see, like the first thing that I want to talk about, man, is mindset, your collection of thoughts, ideas, beliefs, right? And then there's a quote that I kind of remember. I don't know exactly how it goes, but it goes something like this, right? Like a man's life is what he thinks about all day, something like that, right? Basically. And right now that I feel pretty aligned with where I am, where I'm going, who I am, right? Who I'm becoming in order to get to where I want to go. I feel pretty aligned. And the thoughts, the ideas, the beliefs that I have are like, man, the only thing, like my dominating thoughts throughout the day is what I want, what I'm going after. Like that's what I'm thinking about all day, right? When I'm with my family, I'm able to be present, because I intentionally, when dad gets home, he sets the tone. But like in any other time during my day, man, I'm thinking about what I want. So I feel like I have that killer mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting to it. Like I'm getting to it. Things are happening. Things,
Yeah.
happen. Things are going my way. Events, circumstances, people, right, fall
Mm-hmm.
into place. But it wasn't always that way, right? I had to get clear on what I want. Most people don't know what they want. Um, so let's see. So yeah, so I think about what I want all day. I also
Mm-hmm.
have like a more tactical thing. I also have this process that I go through in the morning that I call the mental pathway programming, in
Mm-hmm.
which like I go through like my vision board, my core values, I like my story. Like I've written my story like into like little boxes, right? That really define, like, I don't know, like an important event in my life
Mm-hmm.
from the past till now, and then the boxes in the future that I'm creating. And the crazy thing is that if I share my screen with you, right, all of those boxes that I decided 2 years ago that were going to happen are happening and are literally
That's
being
awesome.
created, right?
Right, right,
So I'm like brainwashing myself
right.
into believing that I'm the person that will be able to have all the things that I want to have. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, right, once you do this, once you get really clear on what you want, and you build a strong desire for it,
Mm-hmm.
and you step into the dark, into all of the things, all the negative limiting beliefs that we're also driving we're driving your
Mm-hmm.
behavior. You make a plan, you start getting results,
Right,
right?
right.
That's what I've been seeing, right?
Absolutely.
So let's see. So yeah, I don't know, what do you think about that, man? Like I was gonna ask a question, but it went away. But yeah, I just
Yeah, no, no, that it
went on a
makes
rant.
perfect sense, man. And it is crazy because even those, when you talked about when you didn't have it, like part of that dark side is integrating those failures or those things that haven't gone our way, is integrating those into your process so that it no longer comes just about success or failure. Really, the killer instinct is the ability to be calm and poised. And specifically for athletes, right? If you think about sports, think about your favorite athlete. The most dominant athletes are not the ones getting the happiest when they score or getting down on themselves when they don't. They're not the ones who are celebrating when they're up 2-0 in the playoffs, and they're not the ones crying when they're down 0-2 in the playoffs. They're even keel, they're calm because they're no longer as affected by the highs and lows, right? So killer instinct, the pinnacle of killer instinct is to be calm, poised, and unaffected by either. I think there's a what's that? Rudyard Kipling, the poem "If" by Rudyard Kipling. He said, if you could meet with both triumph and failure and treat those two imposters the same, then you'll become a man, right? So realizing that wins are imposters, losses are imposters, and it's really what you talked about before we started, creating that emotional center where you've already feel like a winner before, right? And you trust yourself, and you trust yourself under pressure, because you know as well as I do, life gives us all tons of challenges and pressures, especially when life wants you to level up, right? So when you're ready to advance, you now have challenges. You're faced with challenges. And a lot of us don't see it like that because it doesn't always feel like that. A lot of times when we go through struggles and things, it feels like we're being punished or it feels like we're doing something wrong, when sometimes you're not doing anything wrong. Sometimes life is just throwing you a few challenges and seeing how you respond to it. And it's really up to you to prove your mettle so that you can advance, if you will. So that dark side, man, is really important, and understanding that it is going to be a path that you go through. And like you talked about that mental, I think you called it mental pathway programming, doing
Mm.
all of those things and doing them every day. To take it back to the gym analogy, is the same as the weightlifter showing up day in and day out, not just doing the squats and the bench press, but also doing the smaller exercises, stretching, nutrition, sleep, all of it matters, right? So ultimately in my program, the Killer Instinct System, it's about an actual program, a practical system designed to help get these top performers to the point where they're actually performing at their peak and exhibiting that killer instinct mentality.
Killer instinct system. So inside the system, can we find that, those 3 steps that you talked about, developing the strong desire, stepping into the dark, and, making the step-by-step plan to get to where you want to
Oh,
go?
absolutely. Yeah. It's a 10-phase, 70+ system. I've been teaching it for the past 10 years to high performers all over the globe. It's my life's work. It's my philosophy. You know what I mean? And it's very practical. As an athlete, someone who plays sports, And then, coming into business realm and beginning my personal growth journey. I don't know if you experienced this as well, but one of the things that would frustrate me when I would read these books that felt good to read, but they didn't really leave me with like an actual game plan, right? So as athletes, like we want to plan, like, okay, you don't want just somebody to tell you got to do these exercises. You like how many reps, how many sets, how long should I be doing it? I'm a very practical person in that way. And I like working with systems, right? And a lot of the athletes that I work with, they enjoy that as well. They want systems, they want structure. So I had to develop my own system that was designed to teach athletes how to develop this mentality. Because like I told you, when I was training these younger athletes back before I created I'm Not You, which is my company, I was noticing like these, they think that they need more time in the gym, but they don't. I would actually a lot of times spend the first 20, 30 minutes with these athletes, just helping them get their mind right, showing them how to prepare mentally to show up and actually get the most out of a training. Because a lot of times they're showing up, they're not even engaged. We only got an hour, and the first 15 minutes, you're not even engaged. You just wasted 15 minutes, but your competition is not wasting that time. So you're waiting to come here to get prepared. You need to know how to get prepared beforehand. You need to understand how to maximize and structure a week so that you're productive. Because a lot of athletes feel like they don't have any time, just like a lot of fathers, a lot of entrepreneurs say they don't have any time. How do you not have any time when you and I have the same amount of time? So where'd your time go? Where is it going? Because if it's going somewhere that's not an investment, that means you're wasting money, right? It's like if you and I were brothers coming up and we both got $20 a week, and by Tuesday you didn't have no money. And by Tuesday I had $30 because I took my money, you know what I'm saying, but went to the Dollar Tree, bought some candy, sold it at school. Then I came up on top. So how'd you lose money, but I gained money and you have nothing to show for it? So that's how I look at the time. And that's why we got to be very structured and diligent about how we structure our time. And that's, again, a key element of the Killer Instinct program. Is really about how to structure your time and make sure you're investing it in a way that's actually going to produce the results that you desire.
I love it, man. So, yeah, managing yourself, self-mastery, your mindset, right? Like if you don't have that, you don't have anything. Like if you know how to sell, if you know how to do whatever, right? You have all the skills in the world, but you can't manage yourself. You have things holding you back. You don't have that killer mindset that, we're talking about. You can go so far. There's this concept that I heard the other day that I really like, right? So which that you need to go through in order to level up as an entrepreneur. And it's like a feedback loop, right? It starts with your skill, right? With a certain level of skill, you can get so far, but then you're going to get to the point in which you need to build your character, right? Your discipline, your consistency, your focus. And then, once you have with that certain level of skill and with a good character, you're going to get so far, right? You're going to get a little bit farther than with just the skill. Mm-hmm. But then you're going to get stuck again, right? You're going to get so far. And in order for you to level up, you're going to have to work on your mindset. Right. And, it's a constant, feedback loop. It's a constant improvement of all of those three. Then once you work on those mindsets, you're going to hit new levels. You're going to be able to tap into new versions of yourself. And then you're going to have to work again on a different skill, on a different level of skill, on a different level of character, different level of mindset. So like it never ends. Mm-hmm. And, that's a really cool concept that I learned. And I just wanted to mention it because, yeah, man, like having this killer mindset, like you'll get stuck, right? Like right. Ultimately, what holds people back is themselves. That's it.
Exactly. Right.
So you talked about building systems and infrastructure. So talk to me a little bit about that, man. So for example, with me, everything I learn, everything I do it in a way in which I know that I'm going to teach it to someone else so that they can do it.
Right. I like that.
Sorry for the interruption. If you're an aspiring, established coach, course creator, author, and speaker, I want to extend an invitation to check out my free training on the podcast Cloak Track Framework by clicking on the link in the description of this podcast. On this training, you're going to learn how combining podcasting with a rare concept that very few people know about called the Cloak Track can help you build a multi-million-dollar network of successful people who can become your clients, put you in front of hundreds of your ideal clients with your message, coaching, courses, and books, help you become a best-selling author, get you booked to speak on stages, or even making an extra $237,600 in the next 6 months. Click on the link of the description of this podcast to learn about the 4 simple steps to make this work. Step number 1 is alignment. aligning who you're trying to be, what you're trying to do, your goals and purpose with building your podcast so that podcasting is a vehicle to help you achieve your goals. Step number 2 is leveraging the cloak track to find an unlimited supply of your ideal podcast guest. Step number 3 is leveraging the cloak track to close an interview with anyone, no matter how rich, famous, or out of your league they may seem. And step number 4 is the content machine, which is the key to tapping into other people's audiences. These are the 4 steps to making the podcast cloak track framework work, and I'm not going to hold anything back on this training. So click on the link in the description of this podcast, go and check it out. And once you've done that, if you feel like this would help, we also have a complimentary, free, absolutely free alignment call to get you started and show you exactly how to implement everything. Get access to the training right now, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. Bye-bye.
Yeah. So when I talk about a system, I mean any actions that you take in a conscious actions that you take in order to consistently produce a desired result. So we all have systems for how we do things, right? We have a system for how we brush our teeth. We have a system for how we answer emails. And a lot of times we're working a system that's not producing our desired result. So for athletes and any high performer, you want to know exactly what results you're looking to produce in the various aspects of your training and the various aspects of your day, and then work on building and crafting systems in order to produce those results. So a few systems that are really important for anybody like you and I to have is systems for how we plan our week, right? We need to be able to plan our week and look ahead to the 7 days and be able to map it out and make sure that our goals that we're setting for the week are based on our larger objectives, right? A lot of people think that they're planning their week because they're sitting down with their calendar and they're scheduling things. No, scheduling is the last thing I do when I plan my week. I'm talking about identifying goals, looking at the big picture, saying, okay, based on my yearly goals, based on my quarterly, based on my month, here's where I want to be by the end of the week. Here's what I want to be true, crafting out, breaking all of those goals down very systematically. That means using the same set of questions each week in order to make sure that you're not getting too emotional, right? Because when we feel great, we will be a little bit more thorough. When we don't feel great, we'll be a little bit more lazy, right? So it's really important that you have a series of questions that you go through. And then, of course, making sure you have your life organized and you're scheduling all those other things that need to be done weekly, what I call time blocks, right? Time with your daughter, time with your spouse, exercising, et cetera. These things that are recurring. But outside of that, making sure you also have goals that you're trying to accomplish on that week, benchmarks you're trying to hit, milestones you're trying to reach as it relates to the larger projects. So planning your week is a really key system. Another system that is really, really important for any high performer to have, I believe, is a morning routine. A routine in the morning that's designed to put you in a peak state and accomplish the various goals that you want to accomplish in the morning. Because the morning's in the beginning, and all people like you and I were competitive. We don't want to start the day off with a few L's. We want to start the day off winning, right? So if you structure how you want your morning to go, and it doesn't mean you have to wake up early. I wake up early. I got a lot of kids. I got 4 children, right? So, and I'm an introvert as well. I need my alone time, right? I get upset when I wake up and then somebody else is awake. I'm like, nah, go back to sleep. Like I need my time. So waking up early works for me, and I don't get a lot of great work done at night. I'm someone like about 6, 7 o'clock. My mind's like, I'm toast. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I know there's some people that I know who can work late at night, and that's fine. You just got to understand your rhythm and your routine. So weekly planning, your morning routine system, as well as what I call blueprinting, which is your daily planning system. All right. This, I would argue, is even more important than weekly planning. If all you did was plan out your day in a very systematic way, meaning a very specific set of questions that you ask yourself that are designed not just to get you feeling positive, right? That's important, but also to help you define what outcomes you want to accomplish the next day, along with what are the most important actions. And there's a difference between actions and outcomes. Most people start the day just with a bunch of things they got to do. I'm going to write 10 emails. I'm going to do. That's fine. But before you get to actions, you got to identify what are you looking to accomplish for that day? What are the goals you want to accomplish? And this alone is a skill that needs to be developed, the ability to be able to craft high quality outcomes, define targets, and then create actions that you need to do. And then, of course, understanding the time investment in terms of those actions, which is a big part of the daily planning system, blueprinting, I'll call it, which is defining, let's say you wake up at 4, you go to sleep at 10, defining exactly how you're going to invest your time from 4 to 10, having a visual of what that's going to look like. It's a 10-minute process, super simple. But imagine if you did that every single night. For those of you listening, imagine if you did that. Ask yourself, out of the past 7 days, how many days did you start? When you woke up, you already had a written plan, outcomes, actions, etc. And again, if you find yourself not able to answer that in the affirmative, then that's one of the reasons why you're struggling or not. It's not the only reason. And those are just 3 systems. And I got systems for everything. Ultimately, a killer, what I call a killer, somebody who has that killer instinct mindset, is systematic in about everything they do, right? It doesn't mean that they don't enjoy themselves or they don't have spontaneity. It means that they're just deliberate. It's what Napoleon Hill calls an outwitting the devil. I don't know if you read that book, one of my favorite books of all time.
For sure.
Yeah, it's what he calls a non-drifters. Drifters are those who just don't know what they want, and life is handing them whatever life wants to, and they're taking it. And they're either mad or they're crying and making excuses about it, right? And they have no idea. Non-drifters are those, he said, they're the fish. They resemble the fish that takes the bait but leaves the hook. You see what I'm saying? Meaning they take only what they want from life, and anything they don't want, they don't take it. And when they have to get it, when life dishes that to them, they of course accept reality that that's their circumstance, but in their mind they don't accept it, and then they work hard to create what it is that they do want. And that's a non-drifter. You got to be deliberate about everything.
Yeah. And I believe that the more systematic that you have your life, right? The more systematic you operate, the more, So the more systematic you are, the more freedom you have, right? The more enjoyment that you get to enjoy, right? Exactly. So it's not, a lot of people feel that like, if you have like a very rigid, very structured, very systematic, very disciplined, like you won't get to enjoy life, but actually you get to enjoy it even better, right?
Exactly.
With more quality, with more, in more quantities and quality, right? Awesome. So that is the systems, that is like the infrastructure in the mindset that a high performer should have.
And I want to speak to something you just said as well, because that's a common objection of a lot of people, which is like, man, like I don't want to, it's too hard to be this and that, and I don't want to have I don't want to be all tied up and bound by. That's another reason why people don't even set goals. And honestly, and I say this with all due respect, that's a childish mindset, right? And you gotta children are the one. Children's mind is like, oh, I don't. That's one of the things my daughter complains to me about. I don't want to do this. I just want to do what I want, and that's what children should want to do. But here we all adults, and we're trying to lead people, but we don't want to have that structure. So, and we all have a childish mindset, but part of having that killer instinct is learning how to discipline that inner child, right? So when your daughter wakes up and she doesn't want to brush her teeth, she just says, no, I don't want to eat my vegetables. I want to have candy for dinner. A good father doesn't allow his daughter, who he loves, to do that. A good father knows how to communicate with that child in a way that gets that child to understand and provides a structure and boundaries for that child so that they can walk in the right path, in the right direction, right? That's what being a leader is. So we have to be able to do that for ourselves, because all of us have that inner child that just wants to hang out, wants to wake up whenever we want to wake up, wants to eat whatever we want to eat, wants to clock into work. Everyone talks about wanting to be a businessman, right? And they want to be their own boss, but they don't know how to be a good boss. You see what I'm saying? So, and then you talk to these entrepreneurs and they have no structure for the day. If you ask them, what time do you go to work? They don't even know. So if you work for a boss, right, you went to work, let's say we worked at Home Depot or something, right? And do you think if I ask you what time you go to work, you're going to tell me 11 a.m., 11 to 9. Like, you know what time you know how long your break is. You know how long your lunch is. You know what's acceptable. You know you can't have your phone out while you're on the floor, whatever, right? But here we are working in our own businesses, calling ourselves entrepreneurs, but have no clock in time, no clock out time, no discipline, no structure, not keeping ourselves accountable. You ask how many, like if you worked in a factory, you would be accountable to how many, whatever you're producing, how many you produce. But if you ask people how much did you produce this week, they have no quantifiable way to measure that, right? So you're a bad boss and you got an undisciplined, lazy worker. That's a recipe for disaster, right? So if you want to be your own boss, that requires a certain level of discipline. It's scary because a lot of us don't know how to be our own boss, so we have to learn it, right? And I'm sure you probably experienced that as an entrepreneur. It's difficult, like, because you're having to manage the talent. You know what I mean? Like, here you are delivering, but you also own a business. So you also got to tell the talent what to do. You got to direct the talent and make sure the talent shows up, does what they need to do, etc. So a big part of my philosophy is dealing in reality, right? Looking at things as they are, making sure that we look at what we're doing and look at it like a math equation. What you're doing is not going to lead to where you want to go. So you could talk all day, and it's now easier than ever to tell people what you want to do. It's easy to put together a nice little cute Instagram reel and act like you so ambitious and this and this and that. It's easy to hop on Twitter and judge people and act like you're some higher thinker and post quotes from books you're reading and shit like that. So it's easy to do that. But what you need to realize, and this is what I love about sports, is that those ones who talk, we still got to play the game. So you got to show us. You see what I'm saying? You got to show us. And that's what people need to realize. And that's why what I teach is not for everyone. It's not, sometimes it's not easily digestible. Sometimes people will listen to my podcast and they'll tell me, look, I was mad at you for about 3 months. You ever had somebody tell you the truth and you didn't like what they said and then you was mad, but then later you realize, man, like, I'm glad they told me that. But you were mad at the time because your ego was hurt. That's fine. That's my job. That's my role, right? And sometimes I got to be the bad guy. And again, it's just like being a parent. Sometimes you got to tell your kids shit that they don't want to hear. Sometimes you got to have them do things they don't want to do, and they're going to be mad at you. But later, for example, when I look in my life, I look at all the people who told me the truth and held me to a high standard. Those are the people I wish I had more of those coming up. You know what I'm saying? But now people are so soft, ego is so fragile, and so easily able to act like they're doing certain shit, right? But I see right through that, and Killer Instinct is designed to show those who actually got that hunger, the ones who really show up like, yo, I'll do whatever it takes. Those type of people like you who got that hunger in their eyes, like, and I could sense it. It's just like an animal, right? An animal in the wild can look at another animal and sense like, nah, they not from the jungle, man. They from the zoo. You know what I'm saying? So I can look at you and tell you from the jungle, man. Like, certain people, you can sense it. They got that hunger. They got that desire. And I was always that type of athlete. I would do whatever my coaches asked. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was always the one like, yo, show me what to do. And I didn't have high quality training coming up. You know what I'm saying? So now, with as much electronics, as much information is available to us for athletes and for entrepreneurs, there's no real excuse for you not to be doing shit in a very systematic way. You could right now go to the library and pick up books showing you how to start businesses. You got all of the greatest entrepreneurs writing their philosophies, their strategies in books. You got free courses on the internet. You got free podcasts like this. I'm over here dropping game for y'all. You know what I'm saying? Free. You know, and you got all these other people that you interview. So it's no excuse, man. So now it's like where the rubber meets the road. It's like, who's actually really willing to put in that work? You know what I'm saying? Who's willing to pay that price? And that's what Killer Instinct is about.
Let's go, man.
Yeah.
That was great, man. So let's see. So man, now, you know, you have like this Killer Instinct and this, you know, like amazing personality and energy and drive that we can, you know, that I can sense from here on Zoom. And I want to ask you about your story, because you're probably, I don't know if you were always like this, right? Like, now I want to hear, like, how did you get to here, to where, how you are, where you are and everything. But before I do that, I just want to mention and ask about like the more than 1,000 podcasts that you have. You have more than like 1,000 episodes, right?
Definitely. Yeah, man. I've been doing this. I can't even remember when I first started, but yeah, man, I started my podcast and I had no idea who was listening. I had no idea if I was going to be heard, but much like you, man, I had a very clear purpose and I knew who I was talking to. I know what value I could offer them. And I felt very strongly about the quality of my value. And I felt like, you know, when you have someone that's like, yo, if you get this, it's going to change your situation. So I feel like I had that, and I just poured my heart into it. And so many great things have happened. It's been like the cornerstone of my business for several years now, as I start to like expand to other, other marketing outlets and things. But I love podcasting. I have 2 podcasts. One's called the Sports Motivation Podcast. That's where a lot of deeper teaching is done. I break shit down, have episodes anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours, really breaking down strategies, mindsets, systems on how to build that dominant mindset. And then I have the Get Your Mind Right podcast. And this is where I get to tap into a lot of that darker energy. It's really me just talking shit over hip hop beats. And it's high level jungle motivation, I call it. You know what I'm saying? Like, not really the type of shit you would play in a, for, let's just say it's the type of motivation that athletes like me, like when we go to the gym, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not overly positive. It's real shit. It's like the type of shit you need to hear in order to get your mind right. That's why it's called that. And it was started because this is how I would talk to myself. You know what I mean? There's a certain way, like the way I'm talking to you now, this is how I talk to myself. And it's born out of the way that I was talked to coming up. And it's not all positive, quite frankly. My pops is from Nigeria. He came here when he was 18. He is about as hard on me as anyone could ever be. And in a lot of bad ways as well. You know what I'm saying? But when I talk about that dark side, that's a part of who I am. I can't get rid of that if I tried. You know what I'm saying? Every time I see my dad, to this day, I just saw him today. I still, that little boy in me still wants to make my dad happy. But the little boy in me still feels like there's nothing I can do to make my dad proud. That part will never go away. And I love that part of me because that's why I am who I am. And that's not the only part of me. And there's a lot of things that little boy did in order to compensate for that insecurity that actually led me in the right direction, right? And I'm fortunate for that, because a lot of us, in order to compensate for our insecurities, we end up doing things that hurt us. And I did some of those things as well. But I channeled that anger, that drive into football. And that's why I love football. That's why I love sports. That's why I've chose to really help athletes develop that killer instinct within their sports, because I know how much that translates to all the other areas of their lives as well.
Awesome. Damn. So, man, take me back now. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So third of 4 boys. My pops came here from Nigeria when he was 18, married my mom. And like I said, I was the third of 4 soccer family. Right. So all of us played soccer. And at about 6th grade, man, I was a little chunkier, younger as well. And I was a bully on a soccer field, man. I'll be running these little kids over, you know what I'm saying? And parents getting mad at me and shit like that. And 6th grade, when I started playing more competitive soccer, we were doing so much running. And I was like, man, I do not like this. I was hating going to practice. And I had some friends who played football, and I was just begging my mom and dad, like, man, please let me play football, because they didn't want to let me. And finally, I think it was probably my mom who was like the deciding one, because if she was going to keep saying no, I don't think I would have been able to do it. But, they let me, and I started playing football in 7th grade, and I just fell in love, man. Loved football. And I was the third out of 4, and all my other brothers, not only did they still play soccer, of course, but they were all really good in school. Like all my brothers, like straight A's. 2 of my brothers went to Stanford. Another one went to Santa Clara. Very successful in an academic sense coming up. And I was the kid who never met my dad's standards, right? So I was like a C+ student, and to him, it was failing. You know what I'm saying? Like you got anyone with a Nigerian pops, and I'm not going to speak for all Africans. I'm just saying anybody with a Nigerian father knows exactly what I'm talking about. Nothing's good enough. You walk in with an A, it's like, yo, why didn't you get an A+? My brother was just telling me a story about I was just talking to my brother the other day. He was telling me when he was young and with my dad, right? He had a soccer game. He had a hat trick, 3 scores, right? And he came home, told my dad's response was, man, you must have been playing against a bunch of bums. You know what I mean? Not you, right? So that's how I was to my dad, always like not doing enough, always feeling like he wasn't pleased with me. And so football was the thing that I latched onto, and that really like I started pouring a lot of my drive and my energy into, right? And when I was in high school, my dad was driving me to school one day, and man, he was just lighting up into me, lecturing me, which is what he did often, and told me I was the only son who didn't put a smile on his face. And for whatever reason, when he said that, like that was the shit that like I remember getting out the car. I was crying. I went to the computer lab, cried for a bit until people started coming in, went to the bathroom, wiped my tears. And it was almost like that was the day when I kind of like clammed up and just got cold. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when you go through shit when you're young, sometimes things happen to you. Yeah, you have to protect yourself because you don't really know how to deal with that. Like at the time, and I didn't notice, my mom was depressed. She wasn't really in a good place in the marriage. I didn't have anyone. Like I had my brothers, but they weren't really equipped to talk me through this shit either. You know what I'm saying? So here I am, I think I was a freshman or sophomore at the time. And, that was when I like, yo, fuck this. Like I made a decision that I wasn't going to care about him no more, even though I cared a lot. Right. But I made a decision like, fuck him. I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's what had me start going hard at football. Ask any coach that I played for. I was always the kid with not biggest, fastest, strongest. But every time I showed up to a new team, they're like, yo, who is this dude out here smacking fools? You know what I'm saying? Because it was like that. I would go hard. Like I was a fearless football player in that way. Whereas like any sort of contact, I'm looking for it. And I was a running back. So I was looking to run fools over. Right. So that led to me being able to walk on to Oregon State as a football player. There was a couple of smaller schools that I could have gone to, but I wanted to play big time. You know what I'm saying? At high school, I decided I wanted to make it to the league as well. And I got a chance to walk on at Oregon State. And I had my first son when I was 19 years old. So my freshman year at Oregon State, right? So I made, that was a mistake that I made as well early. When you're breaking down at 4, it's like so clear to see, when you kind of go into these different cycles. So have my son. And when I had my son, it was crazy because there was a couple other guys on the team that actually had kids while they were in college as well. And I remember a couple of them like ended up, dropping out, not playing football. And they always blamed it on the kids. They didn't say like, oh, I can't, it's the kid's fault. But the story that they told was, I can't do this because of that. And that always fascinated me because I'm like, hold on. After I was scared about having my son, like most 19-year-olds would be, it was like, yo, I'm about to have a son. And so after that, it's good news. Not only that, I told myself, I'm not ever going to be the dude who's making an excuse of why I didn't do what I needed to do because of my son. Never. And I'm going to be a good father. That's a fact. I'm never going to abandon my son. And making that decision was always so freeing to me. It's like, nah, I'm not doing that. So long story short, I ended up transferring from Oregon State after 3 seasons. They didn't give me a scholarship. So I wanted to get a scholarship. So I ended up transferring to Portland State, which is actually the city that I was from, where my son was anyway. So it was perfect. I got a scholarship to Portland State, had an okay junior season. And then my senior season just had a breakout season, was looked at by a ton of scouts. And then about 8 games in, I was having a record season. Like I had 11 touchdowns, 8 games, bunch of yards receiving and rushing. Had a lot of teams looking at me, and I busted my wrist, broke my wrist, was out for 6 months after the 8th game of my senior season. So of course, most people, you can't do it, whatever. I even had coaches telling me, just get a job, take care of your son, don't worry about the NFL. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like early 20s. I have the rest of my life to figure out a fucking job. I'm about to try to get to the league, man. And again, it just didn't make practical sense to me. Why would I stop? Why would I not try? Like, what do I have to lose other than nothing, right? So long story short, got myself a trainer. They invested in me, didn't have a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? I fresh out of college. At this point, I had my second son on the way at this point, right? So now shit was really real. It's like, yo, you got to make this happen. You know what I mean? So ended up really balling out at my pro day. Got picked up as an undrafted free agent to the New Orleans Saints, was starting by I think the 4th game was starting for the New Orleans Saints as an undrafted rookie free agent, starting for the New Orleans Saints, made my dream come true. Like it was like the ultimate pinnacle of my career, and spent just 2 years with the Saints. Things didn't end up how I wanted, dealt with 2 shoulder injuries, tried to get back into the league, and spent about a year, 2 years, really lost, trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. struggling, drifting, as Napoleon Hill would call it. And then that's when, like I mentioned, I started training, building my own camps. And then that's when I'm Not You was born out of all of this, man. So really a blessing, and again, like I mentioned, there's a lot of parts of my story that aren't so, positive, but that's the truth for all of us. You know what I'm saying? The key is how you integrate those into your current story, because a lot of us will try to delete those things, right? But it's like, no, that's a part of who you are. Just like the positives are part of who you are. Like the story you told me about your daughter, man, that's heavy shit, man. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
I'm sure probably still generates pain, not just pleasure, right? I know you love your daughter, but still pain around that as well. But look, that's a part of your story. And then you could teach your daughter to do that, because there's going to be parts of her story that aren't going to always be sweet. And then there's going to be a lot of great times as well. But it's about developing that killer instinct. Is almost like you just looking at life like, come on, man, like whatever, I'm going to be on top regardless. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's about. So that's a little bit about my story.
Damn, that was powerful, man. A lot of drive and determination from your story. So the source of all of this drive and determination and courage, almost like anger, man, almost like wanting to prove everyone wrong, right?
Definitely,
or wanting to prove yourself right. Do you think all of this will stem from like your father?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of that stemmed from my father. I'm not going to put it all on him, but I mean, let's be real, man. Like, listen, when you're a child, your parents are God to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you know that so whatever your relationship is or was with the people who raised you, right? Even people who didn't have fathers, the thought of their father still haunts them, influences them, etc. So my dad, and he has a strong personality, and he taught me a lot of great things. My dad was a very powerful person in the community. My dad spent a lot of time with his children, invested heavily in all of us. My dad was someone who would do whatever it took in order to get his kids where they needed to be, for better or worse. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, ton of that came from my pops. A lot of that came from my position in the family as well, right? Just the fact that middle child, a little bit of an outsider within my family, and particularly my four brothers. I'm the introverted, shy one. I was shy coming up, right? That's still a part of my nature to this day. So all three of my brothers, if you meet them, like they're loud, life of the party, Barack Obama type personalities, you know what I'm saying? Just light up the room and things like that. I'm quiet, man. I'm in the corner. So a lot of that came from just this pain that I felt of literally just never feeling like I could live up to his standards.
Good
and
enough.
me realizing that if I tried, I probably would always be failing. So the competitor in me, it was like, look, I don't want to play this game. I want to play a new game. You know what I'm saying? Like, so sometimes like it's a smart thing to do to not play a game that's rigged, that you can't win. Right. So it's like, I'm not going to play this game. Let me play a new game. And it's like, I decided to play not just the game of football, if you will, even though that was my game, but it's like I created this I'm Not You mentality. And that's the name of my company, where it came from. Like from that time where I was in the computer lab, right after my dad told me that what he told me, and I'm crying, I decided I'm not going to be like everyone, because I'm already not like everyone. And I'm trying to be like everyone, and mainly my brothers, but it's not working. He's never pleased with me. So now I'm going to say, fuck that. I'm going to develop the I'm Not You mentality, which means if everybody's doing that, I'm not you. So like when my coach told me, like, look, you should just whatever, I'm like, nah, I'm not you. So I'm going to do that. Like if everyone's saying, nah, I can't do that. Nah, I'm not you. So I'm going to do that. And one thing that I didn't mention, I became a firefighter after I was a football player, right? And I became a firefighter because I told myself like, oh, I needed, a good job, and, still stuck in that sort of old school mentality, right? And I became a firefighter. I made that dream a reality in like less than a year. You know what I'm saying? And it was a very competitive job, right? And I applied much of the mindset things that I had learned from my mentor when I got out the league, right? And when I became a firefighter, I quickly realized like, nah, this is not the job I want to be in for the rest of my life. Like, nah, this ain't for me. So what did I do? 3 years in, I decided to quit the job. And everyone was telling me, all the chiefs and everyone was begging, like, oh man, you don't want to do this, man. Trust me. You got family. Like, I'm not you.
I'm not
you know
you.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's for you. That's what you do. Like you out for safety and security. I'm a jungle lion. You know what I'm saying? Like I belong in the jungle. Like I got to hunt for the shit I eat. Like I don't want nobody feeding me. And when I was young, it was like it's like I was a young like zoo animal, you know what I'm saying, just begging for the approval of, you know what I'm saying, of people in the zoo. And I realized I don't want to live in this no more. You know what I'm saying? Because the other thing that's true, especially if you have parents like I had, or a dad like I had, who's very, like got the vision laid out for you, you want to make him happy. So you don't even realize it. You're living your whole life trying to make your dad happy. I got friends that are older than me that are in their 40s still trying to make their parents happy. They don't even know it though. You know what I mean? Because they don't admit it. Like me, I know when I see my dad, I pay attention to how I feel. So he's like one of the only people who can get under my skin, who can say things that can truly break me down. I don't know if that will ever not be true or not. We'll see, because I work on my mindset every single day. And here's the other thing. It's hard as shit. You see what I'm saying? A lot of people think like, oh, just like going to the gym. Going to the gym ain't fun. If you going to the gym all the time, you squat day on Friday morning or Monday morning, that's not always fun. There's gonna be some days where you like, I literally do not want to be here, but you got to keep putting in that work. And that's how you see those residual gains over time, right? So if you want to build that toughness, it requires a certain honesty with yourself, right? That's why I do what I call ruthless self-evaluation. Ruthless, like where I tell myself the truth. And I feel the most pain when I realize I'm not being honest with myself. You see what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And I know, and I'm sensitive to that now, right? So part of being tough is being sensitive, but sensitive gets a bad rap. Sensitive mean, right, in sports, you would say a good athlete is an aware athlete. That's what being sensitive really is. It's being self-aware. You're aware of how you're feeling, where these feelings are stemming from. And if you can build more and more of that awareness or sensitivity, and you don't have to call it sensitivity, you can call it whatever you want, but you build more of that awareness, you'll be able to maneuver your way through life with more and create more harmony for yourself, right? But it's like if you are blind and you walking through a room, you're gonna bump your legs, you're gonna run into all sorts of shit. But if you got senses that are heightened, that you can maneuver, right?
You're aware.
A great basketball player, aware. A great running back, aware when the hole is going to open up. You hit the hole, right? You create more success for yourself by building that self-awareness. But the process of building that self-awareness is very difficult, right? Or I should say it can be very difficult, especially when you're used to lying to yourself all the time. Like we all have the family member or close friend where every time you tell them something that's true, they get mad at you. It's like, but why are you mad at me? I'm just telling you the truth. And it's because the truth hurts them too much because they're not used to the truth. You see what I'm saying? So you want to start making yourself more aware so you can go to the truth. So you can actually know where to put your feet instead of, falling in a ditch and repeating the same mistakes over and over again.
Damn, a lot of power, man, a lot of wisdom and gems and power and everything. And man, I always end my interviews with 5 questions, but I want to be respectful of your time. Like we're already 2 minutes, ahead. And I don't, right now I have a workout. So like, I want to be respectful of your time.
No, we good. I have until 4:15. So we're good.
Cool. Awesome. Well, man, all of this was great. Okay. And yeah, like I have no words, right? But yeah, it was great. Thank you, man.
Absolutely.
But the first question is, if you could give your 20, how old are you? This is not the first question. How old are you, man?
Yeah, I'm 37.
Nice. Damn, you look really good. You look really good, man. And if you could give your 20-year-old self some advice, what would that be?
Man, some advice. I tell him a lot of things. Let's see where I'd start. Let me just remember exactly where I was at 20 years old. So I was at Oregon State. I was trying to figure out if I wanted to transfer or not. At that time, I was dealing with a lot of indecision. I love football, but I was really frustrated with the politics of it. And I had a lot of negative people in my ear trying to tell me a whole bunch of other shit. So what I would tell myself is, listen, man, the things that you're scared of, you don't really have to be scared of them because they're not that scary. You know what I mean? Like, so whatever you feel like you should do, and you'll know what you should do based on how you feel. So when you think about what you want and it feels good to you, that's what you really want. So once you determine what you want, and at that time, I really believed I deserved a scholarship. I wanted to ball out. I wanted to get to the league. So I would tell my 20-year-old self, look, all of that shit you want, I'm glad you want that. Tap into that. And not only that, create a plan and execute that plan. And the things that you're afraid of not working out, they're not that bad. So you literally have nothing to lose. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's like you with your kids, right? You ever have them be like, you ever introduce them to like a new vegetable or fruit or something, and they're like, no. And it's like,
it's not that bad.
Yeah, you're like, look, man, the worst thing that can happen is you just don't like it and you spit it out. Like, but you're not gonna die, you're not gonna choke. So either you like it, either it's okay, or you spit it out. Either way, but nothing really can go wrong here. So I would tell my 20-year-old self, like, look, man, the shit that you're scared of, you ain't even really got to be afraid of it. And not only that, if you go all out towards this goal, whatever happens, you're going to be straight. And you want to know why? Because you're either going to succeed. You might even succeed more than you ever thought that you could. If you fail, you're going to put yourself in position for a better move. It's just like playing football. When you are getting the ball as a running back and you hitting the hole, if you go scared through the hole, that's how you get tackled for loss of yards. That's how you fumble as well. But when you hit the hole and just trust that a crease will open up, it will, right? And sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes you might have to reverse the field, but you got to stay aggressive. So I would tell my 20-year-old self, be aggressive, man. Like, you're young. You're going to figure out a lot of shit about yourself by going after your goals and dreams. And it doesn't matter if you fail. And yeah, you'll feel pain when you fail, but the pain isn't that bad. It's just like getting hit in football. Nobody wants to get tackled, but it ain't that bad. You know what I'm saying? You get that first hit, you get that first one out the way. It's like, oh, hell yeah, let's go. You know what I'm saying? I was always the running back where it's like, yeah, I want to initiate the contact just to get those few hits out the way. Because once I get lathered up, it's game over. I'm bringing heat to motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome. Man, that was great advice, man. Yeah. Thanks. I'm 21. I don't know if I told you.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I didn't realize you were that young. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I'm like you. I don't know. Yeah, like I'm fired up right now.
Yeah.
The next question is mindset, man. So what is one mindset shift that you've had that you can share that you think is contributing to your success?
Yeah, man. I would say this. Yeah, this is a good one. So look, in Sun Tzu, Art of War, right?
Okay.
Great book. Everybody should read it. He talks about putting yourself on death ground. When you put your army on death ground, then he says your soldiers will fight like they have the devil in them, right? So death ground is, with the way he's talking about a military strategy, it's positioning your troops either in a deep forest or a large mountain, somewhere where they have nowhere to retreat. Basically, like, you either fight and win or die. Death ground, where you got to get this shit figured out. So death ground, this concept of death ground, for me in my life, I feel like I've always kind of been on death ground, right? I've always kind of felt like I had to do things a certain way. Otherwise, it just wouldn't work out for me, right? So it's like I have no other choice. But that's a mindset, right? So a lot of people want what they want, but they're not really willing to put themselves on death ground, right? So for example, when I quit my job as a firefighter, that's putting myself on death ground. At this point, I had a family of 4 and I was newly married. So, and I actually was a family of 5. I had 5 children. My youngest son was born at that time. So it's like I had no choice but to figure it out. So the mindset shift is this: you're not going to get what you want until you put yourself on death ground, because you won't know what it's like to have to fight like you have the devil in you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you won't ever really know what that's like. And so you can't say you want to get this without creating that desperation that is the prerequisite for all greatness. You see what I'm saying? I didn't say all mediocrity. People who are mediocre don't really live in death ground. They always have a nice little fallback. They also want to make sure they can run. Like, they go to the jungle, but they got to make sure they see the zoo in arm's distance just in case shit goes bad. Nah, I'm talking about putting yourself in the heart of the jungle, not knowing what the fuck you're doing and having to figure it out, right? Like when you told me about your childhood, like that's death ground. Like you got to figure it out. You don't have no dad telling you, taking care of you. Nah, you got to figure that shit out. That's a blessing. You see what I'm saying? That's a gift. So what I've learned, the biggest mindset shift is don't wait for life to put you on death ground. Preempt it. Put yourself on death ground. You see what I'm saying? It's like, so you look and say what you got to learn, because that's part of what it means to be a high performer, to be a killer, as I call it. You got to learn how to manipulate your environment to create the proper mentality. So you got to be able to create desperation in your own mind. You see what I'm saying? Not have life whoop your ass. You got to know how to discipline yourself instead of have life discipline. It's discipline, right? You have to say, no, I cannot eat this today. Instead of life forcing you not to eat it because you got diabetes or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to learn how to create those boundaries, create that structure around yourself that says, I gotta figure this shit out. So I hope someone is listening right now and realizing that they have been living in this delusion, in this zoo. You know what I'm saying? And the only way you're going to create what you want is if you put yourself in the middle of the jungle, all dark, you frogs and shit, crickets and snakes all in the grass, growling and all of that shit, getting bit by mosquitoes. You got to figure that shit out. Otherwise, you ain't going to figure it out. I'll bet on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. I love it, man. Map. So do you have any advice on people who may lack or need clarity? Right. We talked about clarity right now.
Yeah. No, definitely. I would say number one, limit the time you spend around people who let me see how I can put this. We all have people in our lives who, I'm not even going to call them haters, because a lot of times it's family and people who love us, and they're not, I'm not going to call them negative people because they love us. And you're always going to have these type of people around you. But the people around you who live in fear, right? You got to limit the time you spend around them, especially when you're trying to create clarity, right? So I'm not saying like if you got a mom who's like always scared for you and always trying to tell you to do things that are safe, like I'm not telling you stop talking to your mom. I'm just saying when you're trying to create clarity for yourself, you need to take a hiatus from your mom. So you need to eliminate, at least momentarily, people who reinforce fear, right? Because that's one of the biggest impediments to clarity is fear. But we all know what we want. So it's almost like you know what you want. You got to get rid of the noise. So get rid of those influences. Surround yourself, not with a ton. If you got 2 or 3 close friends, other entrepreneurs who you're comfortable sharing your goals with,
your
and
greatness.
having them, you say what?
Your greatness.
Yeah, exactly. But almost like having them ask you, like when someone asks you like what your vision is or your goals are, isn't it kind of cool? It's like, wow, not many people ask me that. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's nice to have people who ask that of you and actually have that standard for themselves. So spend some time around those people, brainstorming, masterminding, just talking as informally as it needs to be, right? Spend a lot of alone time, going on walks. You could listen to music, but try not to distract yourself with anything that's too stimulating. So it's some light music in the background and try to go on a walk for an hour a day, right? At least during the time where you're lacking clarity, because you'll create more clarity. The other thing is journal. And I don't mean just journal, write down everything you want, because sometimes you don't know what you want. So ask yourself questions. This is the great way to get answers from the subconscious, right? Ask yourself questions. Ask, what do I want? And ask, what do I want in many different ways? You know, what do I want in this area of my life? And just leave it alone. Go to sleep. Because I promise you, you're going to start getting clarity after that. So those are just a few things that you can do, but also anything you can do to cultivate a desire to know what you want. So ask yourself, like, if you don't find out what you want, what's going to happen? Death ground, right? So once you can create some urgency around it, because a lot of people don't want to create urgency, but it's like urgency is their best friend, pressure. And that's one of the ways I distinguish myself from a lot of other kind of hacks, especially in the area of like peak performance, is it's all about feeling good. And no, I teach my athletes to feel good when they're not feeling good. I teach my athletes to know how to weather the storms, not run away from the storms and feel good about them. You know what I'm saying? Like mastering the pressure, going towards the pressure, creating pressure before pressure needs to be created. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Training under pressure so that when you actually have pressure, you know how to deal with the pressure. Like that's what it's about. And it's practical, right? So you're going to experience some pain around it, but be patient. And I think if you just eliminate the fear factors from your life, just momentarily, that's going to do a lot to help you get clear.
Awesome. Yeah, man. Great advice. So I have two more. The next one is motion. So what is one habit that you have that is contributing to your success? One habit.
Oh, that's a good question. All right, I'll go with the habit right now. For me, that's been the highest impact. And funny enough, it's not a sexy habit, but it's very important. Walking. So I'm an athlete, so I like to train. And as I get older, man, I'm realizing like, yo, man, I've been having some problems with my bicep. It's like every time I get into a rhythm with weightlifting, there's a little tweak, and then my calf was fucking up when I'm running. So anyway, but let's just say I was humbled and I had to figure out different ways to exercise. And for whatever reason, walking never felt like exercise. Like, it's like, man, that ain't real exercise. But the key was no longer looking at it like exercise, because when I walk, I get so much clarity. You know what I'm saying? And it's like when you walk, you kind of, well, for me at least, it's like I come face to face with all my thoughts. So it's even better than meditation for me. Like it works better than meditation. I meditate as well, but I can walk for longer. And I just feel like I just come face. So if I'm struggling with something, I'll come face to face with that struggle. And I create like routes that I know how long they are. So I kind of have some predictability. If I know like, okay, I only got 30 minutes right now, I will go this route. And it's just been a game changer for me. It slows my life down. People like you and I were always moving fast. And it's kind of hard to say, yeah, you're going to take an hour walk. You know what I mean? Like, when am I going to take an hour walk? But do it. Like, try taking an hour walk. It forces you to slow down. Don't run either, right? Not running, not jogging, not trying to track anything. Nah, don't track no calories, none of that. Just walk. You know what I'm saying? And just watch the clarity and the sense of calm. And it's going to slow your life down, because sometimes we move a little too fast. You know what I'm saying? And I would suggest that, because lately, this past week, I've been struggling, not really walking as much as I had been. And because I have been a lot more busier this week. So the challenge is not feeling like I got to walk so long. So just get 5 minutes in, 10 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Cool.
Walk to the mailbox and back, or whatever, to the end of the block. Just get something in, man. It slows life down for me. So that's a habit that's been key for me.
Walking. Amazing. And one last question is, what do you think about measuring and tracking? A simple one.
Oh, yeah. What do I think about it?
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's crucial. It's like, I mean, think of it like this, man. There's a great book called 4 Disciplines of Execution by Sean Covey. Great book.
Okay.
And he talks about how important having a scoreboard is, right? So if you go to a football game and they stop keeping score, you think people are going to be into that game? Like, no. Like, did you realize Floyd Mayweather just had a fight? He's, one of the greatest boxers ever, but there was no score. So nobody really cared about that shit. You see what I'm saying? Like, it was an exhibition. So the point is, when you are chasing after a goal, but you're not keeping score, don't wonder why you're not engaged. You know what I mean? Like, all of us humans are competitive. You put up a scoreboard, like nobody wants to be down. I got scoreboards everywhere. So tracking my sales, tracking how many new people I got entered in here, tracking my actions, how many times I've done this, how many times have I woken up on time. And whenever I struggle, I notice that keeping score never allows me to struggle for too long. You see what I'm saying? Because it's like, you don't want to put together 2 days in a row where you fucking up. One day's enough. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So keeping score is crucial. Being organized is one of the ways that you allow yourself to be able to keep score. And I realize a lot of people don't have scoreboards because they don't really know how to create a scoreboard. That's one of the things that I teach people how to do in Killer Instinct, is how to structure their life in a way so that they can track it. They can measure it in a way that's relatively simple, because our lives can be very complex.
Cool, man. You've dropped some bombs, like holy shit. Like I really enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed listening to you and talking to you. And if other people, enjoyed it as well, where's the best way for them to go and find Niyi and more of you and more of this killer mindset and instinct and more of this I'm not you mentality?
Yeah. So first I would say unknowingly.com. So that's my website. That's the home base. You can find everything there, as well as information on my killer instinct system. You can also find me on social media at Olaniyi Sobo across all platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. NIYISOBO. Also check me out on all podcast platforms. Just search Olaniyi Sobo, or you can search Sports Motivation Podcast. And then I also got the Get Your Mind Right podcast, and that's YA, not YOUR. So Get Your Mind Right and Sports Motivation Podcast.
Nice, man. I'm gonna go check your podcast because I wanna listen to this 2-hour episodes that you're talking about.
Yeah,
going in depth into everything that you go into. So, man, thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate you, and I've had a lot of fun. Thank you, man. And
absolutely, man.
I'll see you later.
No doubt.
Bye-bye, bro. Thank you for watching the Gentleman's Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with one friend, leave us a comment, and let us know. 99% of people never leave a review or comment, but we love and are very thankful with the 1% of you who do. If there's something or someone you want to see on this podcast, send me a message on Instagram at Alex_Ramirez1020 and let me know. As a thank you for that, I have an amazing surprise for each and every one of you who does take the time to leave us a comment or review on YouTube or one of the major podcasting platforms